The rooftop bar gleamed like a jewel box 40 stories above Seoul, all glass and chrome, and the kind of understated luxury that whispered rather than shouted wealth. Maya Chen moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency, her tray balanced perfectly as she navigated between clusters of executives in $1,000 suits discussing mergers and acquisitions in 3 different languages. She didn't belong here. The thought arrived with the same quiet certainty it always did. Not self-pity, just observation. She was 24 years old, wearing a borrowed black dress that fit well enough to pass professional scrutiny, serving drinks to people who spent more on watches than she made in 6 months. But she needed the money. God, did she need the money? Champagne? She offered to a group near the railing, her English flawless despite the Korean accent that marked her as local. Years of international school, back when her family had money, before her father's business collapsed and took everything with it, had given her that much at least. One of the men took a glass without looking at her. She was furniture to him. Functional. Invisible. She preferred it that way. Maya was refilling her tray at the bar when she felt it. That particular quality of attention that made the hair on her neck rise. Someone was watching her. Not the casual glance of a guest needing service, but focused observation. Assessment. She turned. He stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, backlit by the Seoul skyline, and for a moment she couldn't see his face clearly. Just the silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, perfectly still in a way that suggested either complete confidence or absolute control. Maybe both. Then he moved into the light. Early 30s. Korean features with an edge of something else, mixed heritage, maybe, or just the kind of face that didn't fit neatly into categories. Sharp cheekbones. Dark eyes that seemed to see through the performance she'd been maintaining all evening. Expensive suit that somehow looked casual on him, like he was comfortable with wealth in a way that suggested he'd been born to it. Their eyes met. Maya felt the moment like a physical impact. Recognition without familiarity, connection without context. Like seeing someone from a dream and suddenly remembering you'd been searching for them without knowing why. You look lost. His voice was low, accented with American English that suggested education abroad. He'd approached without her noticing, now standing close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something subtle and probably obscenely expensive. I work here. She kept her voice professional, neutral. Can I get you something? You don't work here. Not really. You're temporary staff. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. Agency hire for the night. Which means you're doing this because you need money, not because you want to be around people like... He gestured vaguely at the room. This. Maya's spine straightened. I don't recall asking for character analysis with the champagne service. His smile was unexpected. Genuine amusement rather than the condescending smirk she'd anticipated. Fair enough. I apologize. That was presumptuous. Yes, it was. Can I start over? He extended his hand. I'm Ethan Hwang. She looked at his hand for a moment too long. Professional distance warred with something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or the magnetic pull of someone who seemed to see her as an actual person rather than mobile furniture. Maya, she said finally, shaking his hand briefly. His grip was warm, firm, and he released her immediately without the lingering contact that would have been inappropriate. And I do need to work. So if you'll excuse me, how much are they paying you tonight? The question was so direct it startled her into honesty. 300,000 won for 6 hours. That's not enough. He pulled out his wallet, sleek leather, the kind that probably cost more than her rent, and extracted several bills. Here. This is double. Take it and leave. Maya stared at the money. 600,000 won. Nearly 2 weeks of her regular salary at the cafe. Enough to make a real dent in the debt she'd been drowning in since her father's funeral. Why would you do that? She asked carefully. Because you look exhausted. Because I don't like the way some of these men have been looking at you. Because... He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because you remind me that there are people in this room who are here because they have to be, not because they want to be. And I'd rather you not have to be. It was the last part that got her. The acknowledgement that she had no choice. That desperation rather than desire had brought her here. I can't just take your money, Maya said, even though every practical instinct screamed at her to grab it and run. It's not charity. Consider it payment for conversation. Ethan gestured toward the quieter corner of the rooftop, away from the main crowd. Stay for one drink. Talk with me. Then take the money and go home. Deal? She should say no. should recognize this for what it probably was: a wealthy man trying to buy time with someone he found attractive. Should maintain her professional distance and finish her shift. Instead, she heard herself say, "One drink." They sat at a small table near the edge of the rooftop, the city sprawling beneath them like a living map of light and shadow. Ethan ordered 2 glasses of wine, something expensive that Maya pretended to recognize, and for several minutes they just sat in comfortable silence, watching Sol breathe. "Do you always rescue temporary staff from corporate events?" Maya asked finally. "Only the ones who look like they're contemplating whether jumping off the roof would be preferable to serving another round of canapés." His tone was light, but his eyes were serious. "You looked like you were calculating the fall time." "I wasn't, but I appreciate the dramatic interpretation of my resting face." He laughed, a real laugh, surprised and warm. "Okay, fair. Maybe I was projecting. Were you calculating fall time?" "Constantly." The admission was so casual it took her a moment to realize he wasn't joking. These events, their performance. Everyone pretending to be interested in everyone else's success, while mentally calculating how to use each connection for personal gain. It's exhausting. Then why come? Family obligation. My father, he paused, choosing words carefully. He has expectations about my presence at certain events. Networking. Maintaining relationships. Being visible in the right circles. That sounds lonely. It is. Ethan met her eyes. I'm surrounded by people constantly, but most of them see what I represent: money, connections, access, not who I actually am. After a while, you start to forget there's a difference. Maya understood that, had lived it herself before her family's fall from grace. I used to go to events like this, before my father's business collapsed. I remember that feeling, being seen but not known, being valued for what you could provide rather than who you were. What happened? If you don't mind me asking. Bad investments, worse partners, some genuinely unlucky timing with the market crash. She traced the rim of her wine glass. He tried to fix it, borrowed money from the wrong people, made promises he couldn't keep. By the time he died 2 years ago, there was nothing left but debt. I'm sorry. Don't be. He made his choices. I just inherited the consequences. Maya realized she was telling a virtual stranger things she barely admitted to herself. Something about him, the quiet attention, the lack of judgment, made honesty feel safer than performance. Now I work 3 jobs trying to pay down what he owed. The cafe during the day, tutoring English in the evenings. Events like this when the agency calls. It's not sustainable, but it's what I have. That's not fair. Life rarely is. She looked at him directly. What about you? What's your story beyond family obligations and calculating fall times at corporate events? Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. I'm supposed to take over my father's company. Real estate development, primarily, but with holdings in hospitality and entertainment. He built it from nothing. Came to Korea from the States with no money, and 20 years later, he's one of the wealthiest developers in Asia. It's impressive, intimidating, and not at all what I want to do with my life. What do you want to do? I don't know. That's the problem. I spent so long becoming what was expected that I never figured out what I actually wanted. Architecture, maybe. Or teaching. Something that feels real. Something that matters. Teaching matters. It does. But it doesn't generate the returns my father expects from his investment in my education. The bitterness in his voice was subtle but unmistakable. I have a trust fund that vests when I'm 35. Until then, I'm expected to earn my inheritance by building the company, making the right connections, marrying someone appropriate. It's all very transactional. That sounds exhausting. It is. He looked at her with unexpected intensity. You're the first honest conversation I've had in months. Maybe years. Everyone else wants something from me, or wants me to be something. You're just here. Being yourself. It's remarkable. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. I'm not remarkable. I'm broke and exhausted and serving drinks at an event I can barely afford to attend as a guest. That's what makes you remarkable. You're surviving impossible circumstances without losing yourself. That takes strength. The compliment landed somewhere tender. Somewhere she'd been protecting. Thank you, she said softly. For seeing that. She gestured vaguely. For this. Whatever this is. What is this? Ethan asked, and his voice had changed. Become lower. More intimate. I don't know. Maya's heart was beating too fast. But I should probably go. You should. He didn't move to stop her. But I really don't want you to. The honesty in his voice made her brave. I don't want to go either, she admitted. Then stay. Not here. Somewhere quieter. My apartment isn't far. We could just talk. Continue this. See where it goes. Every rational thought Maya had screamed that this was a terrible idea. That going home with a man she'd just met was dangerous. That he was wealthy and connected, and she was vulnerable and desperate. That nothing good could come from blurring these lines. But she was so tired of being rational. So tired of making safe choices that kept her trapped in a life she hadn't chosen. So tired of being alone with her grief and debt and the crushing weight of survival. One condition, she heard herself say. This isn't transactional. I'm not going with you because of the money you offered. I'm going because I want to. Because you seem like someone who understands what it's like to feel lost. Because, she took a breath. Because I haven't wanted something just for myself in a very long time. And I want this. Ethan's expression was unreadable for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. I understand. And I want this too. Not as transaction. Just, he reached across the table, touched her hand gently. Just two people who found each other at the right moment. However brief that moment might be. Maya turned her hand over, laced her fingers through his. Okay, she whispered. Let's go. His apartment was a penthouse in Gangnam. Of course it was. All floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture, and the kind of carefully curated emptiness that suggested money, but not necessarily home. But there were small details that made it feel lived in. Books stacked on the coffee table, a guitar in the corner, photographs on the walls that showed him at various ages, usually alone, often looking at something off camera. You play? Maya asked, gesturing at the guitar. Badly, but it's therapeutic. Ethan moved to the windows, looked out at the city. Can I get you something? Wine? Water? I have tea if you prefer. Ethan. He turned. Maya crossed the room. Stood in front of him. Close enough to feel the heat of him. To see the way his breath caught when she moved into his space. I don't want tea, she said quietly. I want, she paused, made herself say it clearly. I want you. Just for tonight. Just this once. No expectations beyond that. Can we do that? His hands came up to cup her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones with unexpected gentleness. Are you sure? His voice was rough. Because if we do this, if I touch you the way I've been wanting to since I first saw you, I don't know if once will be enough. Then we'll figure it out tomorrow. Tonight, I need to feel something other than tired. Something other than afraid. Please. He kissed her. Soft at first. Testing. Then deeper when she made a small sound of encouragement, her hands fisting in his shirt to pull him closer. He tasted like wine and promises, and Maya let herself fall into the sensation. The warmth of his body, the way his hands moved from her face to her waist to her hips, the sound he made when she pressed against him. This is a mistake, he murmured against her mouth, even as he was lifting her, walking them toward what she assumed was his bedroom. I know, she whispered back. I don't care. Neither do I. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the immediate, crushing awareness of what she'd done. She was in Ethan's bed. In his penthouse. She'd slept with a man whose last name she barely knew, whose life was so far from hers they might as well exist on different planets. What have I done? She sat up carefully, trying not to wake him. He was still asleep, face relaxed, younger looking without the careful control he maintained when awake. Beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. Last night had been. She couldn't think about last night. Couldn't let herself remember the way he'd touched her like she was something precious. The way they'd fit together like they'd been designed for each other. The way he'd whispered her name in the dark like a prayer. Because remembering made it real. And real meant consequences she couldn't afford. Maya found her clothes scattered across his bedroom floor. Dressed quickly, quietly. She needed to leave before he woke up. Before they had to have the awkward morning after conversation. Before she had to confront what this meant or didn't mean. She was at the front door when his voice stopped her. You're leaving. Not a question. A statement of fact, tinged with something that sounded like disappointment. Maya turned. He was standing in the bedroom doorway wearing only pajama pants, hair mussed, eyes still soft with sleep, and something else she didn't want to name. I have to work. My shift at the cafe starts in 2 hours. Maya. Last night was. She forced herself to meet his eyes. It was wonderful. But it was one night. We both knew that going in. No expectations, remember? Right. His expression closed off. Became unreadable. No expectations. I should go. Can I at least get your number? Buy you dinner sometime? Every instinct screamed at her to say yes. To grab this chance at something that felt real and good and possible. But she knew better. Knew that his world and hers didn't mix. That this had been a beautiful mistake, but a mistake nonetheless. That getting attached to someone so far out of reach would only bring pain. I don't think that's a good idea, she said softly. You have your life. I have mine. Last night was perfect because it existed outside of all that. Let's leave it there. Something flickered across his face. Hurt, maybe. Or relief. She couldn't tell. If that's what you want. It is. The lie tasted bitter. Then goodbye, Maya. Thank you for last night. For being honest. He paused. For making me feel human again. Even if it was just for a few hours. Goodbye, Ethan. She left before she could change her mind. Before she could tell him that she felt it too. That connection, that impossible recognition. That for a few hours in his arms, she'd felt like herself again instead of just surviving. But feeling wasn't enough. Not when reality waited outside his penthouse door. Not when she had debt and 3 jobs and a life that didn't have room for the luxury of wanting things she couldn't have. 5 years later. Maya woke at 5:47 a.m. to the sound of small feet padding across hardwood floors. Mama, a whisper from the doorway. Mama, I'm hungry. She opened her eyes to find Min-jun standing at the edge of her bed. For years old, dark eyes huge in his small face, clutching the stuffed rabbit he'd had since he was a baby. Behind him, hovering uncertainly, was Min-seo, his twin sister, thumb in her mouth despite Maya's attempts to break the habit. Come here, babies. She lifted the blanket, and they scrambled in beside her, small bodies warm and solid against hers. This was her favorite moment of every day. The first few minutes when they were still sleepy and cuddly, before the chaos of breakfast and getting ready and rushing to drop them at daycare took over. What do we want for breakfast? She murmured into Min-jun's hair. Pancakes. Min-seo pulled her thumb out long enough to make the demand. Pancakes take too long. What about eggs? Pancakes. Min-jun joined his sister's chant. Pancakes, pancakes, pancakes. Maya laughed despite the exhaustion that seemed to live in her bones now. Okay, pancakes. But quick ones. Mama has to work. You always have to work, Min-jun said with the devastating observation skills of a 4-year-old. Why can't you stay home like Sujin's mama? Because Sujin's mama had a husband with a stable job. Because Sujin's mama didn't have twins to support alone on a secretary's salary. Because Sujin's mama probably hadn't made the catastrophic decision to sleep with a stranger 5 years ago and ended up pregnant with twins she couldn't afford. Because mama's job is important, she said instead. And it helps pay for your daycare and Min-seo's ballet lessons and Min-jun's taekwondo class. I don't like taekwondo, Min-jun said. Can I do ballet with Min-seo? Of course you can, baby. We'll switch next month, okay? Okay. He snuggled closer. I love you, mama. I love you too. Both of you. More than anything in the whole world. It was true. Despite the exhaustion, despite the constant financial stress, despite the way her life had narrowed to work and childcare and survival, she loved them with a ferocity that sometimes frightened her. They were the best thing that had ever happened to her. The reason she kept going, even if they were also the reminder of the biggest mistake she'd ever made. For years and 7 months ago, Maya had taken 3 pregnancy tests in the bathroom of her tiny apartment, each one confirming what her body already knew. She was pregnant. From one night. One impossible, beautiful, reckless night with a man whose last name she hadn't even learned properly. She'd spent 2 weeks trying to find him. Had gone back to the rooftop bar, asked about the event, tried to track down guest lists. But Ethan Hwang was apparently common enough that she couldn't narrow it down without more information. And she hadn't had more information. Just a first name, a vague sense of his industry, and memories of his touch that made her ache. Eventually, she'd stopped looking. Because what would she have said if she'd found him? Remember me? We had a one-night stand, and now I'm pregnant with your child. Want to be involved? He'd made it clear he had family expectations. A life path that probably didn't include surprise children with women he'd met at corporate events. And she had her pride. Didn't want to be the desperate girl trying to trap a wealthy man with pregnancy. So she'd done it alone. Worked until she was 8 months pregnant. Gave birth to twins. A surprise the ultrasound had somehow missed until the 3rd trimester. and came home from the hospital to an empty apartment with 2 babies who needed everything. The first year had been hell. Sleepless nights and endless crying, and the suffocating fear that she couldn't do this, couldn't be enough, couldn't give them what they needed. But she'd survived. They'd survived. And now here they were. Maya at 29, with 2 4-year-olds who had their father's dark eyes and her stubborn chin, and absolutely no idea that their existence was the result of one perfect, impossible night. Mama, pancakes! Minasio's demand pulled her back to the present. Right. Pancakes. Let's go, babies. The job at Phoenix Global Trade had been a godsend when Maya found it 6 months ago. After years of cobbling together part-time work, cafe shifts and tutoring and temporary event staffing, a real full-time position with benefits and a steady paycheck felt like winning the lottery. The salary wasn't amazing, but it was enough to move her and the twins from their cramped apartment in Incheon to a small but nicer place in Seoul. Close enough to a good daycare that she didn't spend half her salary on childcare. The catch was that Phoenix Global Trade was a major company. The kind with headquarters in a gleaming tower in Gangnam and executives who flew first class and corporate culture that demanded long hours and perfect performance. Maya was a junior administrative assistant in the International Operations Department. It meant scheduling meetings, managing correspondence, organizing travel for executives who thought nothing of flying to Singapore for a lunch meeting. It was demanding, but she was good at it. Detail-oriented, organized, fluent in English and Korean. She'd been there 6 months without incident, had made friends with some of the other assistants, learned the unspoken rules, figured out how to navigate the corporate hierarchy without drawing too much attention. Until today. Maya arrived at her desk at 8:15 a.m., early enough to get coffee and review her schedule before the chaos started. Her manager, Mrs. Park, was already there, which was unusual. Maya, good morning. Mrs. Park's expression was unreadable. I need you to come to the executive conference room. There's been a change in leadership, and the new CEO wants to meet all the administrative staff personally. Now. Yes, now. Come on, everyone else is already there. Maya grabbed her tablet and followed Mrs. Park to the conference room on the 40th floor. Her stomach was tight with the low-level anxiety that had become background noise in her life. That constant awareness that one mistake, one missed deadline, one moment of being too visible could cost her this job and the stability it provided. The conference room was full of administrative staff, maybe 30 people, all chatting nervously. Mrs. Park gestured for Maya to sit in one of the chairs facing the front. He'll be here shortly, Mrs. Park said. Remember, professional demeanor. First impressions matter. Maya nodded, smoothing her skirt even though it didn't need smoothing. Just something to do with her hands. The door opened. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming on short notice. The voice was familiar in a way that made Maya's blood run cold before her brain caught up with why. She looked up. No. Ethan Hwang stood at the front of the room, impeccably dressed in a dark suit. Hair styled differently, but face unmistakable. And for one endless moment their eyes met across the conference room, and Maya watched recognition dawn in his expression like sunrise. Shock. Disbelief. Something else she didn't have time to analyze because she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except sit frozen while her past and present collided with catastrophic force. As you know, Ethan continued, his voice steady even though his eyes were still locked on hers. I'll be taking over as CEO of Phoenix Global Trade effective today. My father, a slight pause, has decided to retire, and I'll be managing all operations going forward. I look forward to working with all of you. He continued talking, something about vision and growth and valuing employees. But Maya couldn't hear it over the roaring in her ears. Ethan Hwang, CEO, Phoenix Global Trade. The father of her children was now her boss. And from the look on his face, he had no idea she'd been pregnant when they parted ways 5 years ago. Had no idea he had 4-year-old twins. Had no idea that the woman he'd spent one perfect night with was now sitting in his conference room, trying not to hyperventilate, wondering how her life had just become impossibly more complicated. Are there any questions? Ethan asked the room. Silence. Then thank you all for your time. Mrs. Park, could you stay for a moment? And, his eyes found Maya again. Miss Chen, I'd like to speak with you as well. Maya's heart stopped. He knows. Somehow he knows. Or he's going to fire me. Or, Miss Chen. Mrs. Park touched her shoulder. Did you hear? The CEO wants to speak with you. Yes. Maya's voice came out steady somehow. Yes, of course. The other staff filed out, casting curious glances her way. When the room was empty except for Mrs. Park, Ethan, and Maya, Ethan turned to Mrs. Park. "Could you give us a moment? I'll call you back in shortly." Mrs. Park looked between them, clearly confused but too professional to question the new CEO. "Of course, sir." The door closed behind her, leaving Maya and Ethan alone for the first time in 5 years. "It's you," he said quietly. "I thought, when I saw your name on the employee roster, I wondered, but there are a lot of Maya Chens in Seoul. I never imagined. I didn't know you were taking over." The words tumbled out. "I didn't know this was your father's company. I would never have applied if I'd known." "Why not?" His voice was careful, controlled. "We're both adults. What happened 5 years ago, it was a mutual decision. There's no reason we can't work together professionally. Except for the 2 4-year-olds I take care of every day who have your eyes." "Right," Maya said. "Of course. Professional. I can do that." "Good." But he was still looking at her with that intensity she remembered. That focus that made her feel seen. "Can I ask you something?" "Okay. Why did you leave that morning? Without your number, without any way for me to contact you?" The question was so unexpected that honesty slipped out before she could stop it. "Because I was afraid. Of what it meant. Of how much I wanted to stay. She forced herself to meet his eyes. "Of you. Your world. Everything you represented that I couldn't have. And now I'm a single mother with 2 kids and a job I desperately need. Now I can't afford to want things I can't have. Now," she stopped. Took a breath. "Now we need to be professional. Like you said, that's all this can be." Something flickered across his face. Hurt maybe. Or understanding. "You're right. Of course you're right." He moved toward the door, paused with his hand on the handle. "But Maya? Yes. I never forgot you. That night it mattered. You mattered. I wanted you to know that." Then he was gone, leaving her standing alone in the conference room with the weight of secrets that were about to destroy everything. Because how long could she hide the truth? How long before he noticed that the twins she picked up from daycare every evening had his eyes, his smile, his stubborn chin? How long before someone put the pieces together and her carefully constructed life came crashing down? I have to tell him. I have to tell him about Min Jun and Min Seo. He deserves to know. But the thought of that conversation, of watching his expression change when he realized what she'd kept from him, of hearing him accuse her of trapping him, or using him, or any of the things wealthy men said when confronted with unexpected paternity, made her feel physically ill. Tomorrow. I'll tell him tomorrow. After I figure out how to explain 5 years of silence. It was a coward's decision. But Maya had become very good at being a coward when it came to protecting her children. Even if it meant lying to their father. Even if it meant destroying any chance they might have had at something real. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry." But sorry didn't change anything. Sorry didn't make the truth any easier to tell. Sorry didn't save you when your past and present collided, and the only choice left was which version of yourself to sacrifice.